It's time to cut down to the 53-man roster. And I think for the most part, we have a general idea of where this would be. So starting off right away, we currently have 86 of 90 players on the roster. So we have technically 4 spots available if you would like to go ahead and go pick up some players. This is because Camp Sample is out for the season now, does not count against the roster. Neither does Chris Evans or Deontay Smith. So all those guys do not count toward the roster. And then our 4th player was, of course, Gunner, who just recently retired. So 4 players going, 86 out of 90. We could pick up 4 free agents if we wanted to, but with the season kind of right around the corner, I highly doubt they're going to, unless they have like a certain player that they think, okay, this guy could be really helpful for us. But for the most part, let's go ahead and cut down the roster. So how we do this is, for example, Joe Burrow is going to make the roster 100%. Okay, we already know that. We already know that Jake Browning's going to make the roster. For Logan Woodside, Rocky Lombardi, if I set this number to 0, what you're going to see is this number goes to 85. We have to get this number down to 53 players, okay? So that's how this pretty much works. So, for example, once I get rid of a player, I can go ahead and bam, just like that. So we're getting rid of Rocky Lombardi. I know you might be like, wait, but we didn't see much of him. He got drafted to the UFL. He got drafted in the first round, actually, to the South Carolina team in the UFL. I highly doubt it, unless 100%, he just doesn't want to be a UFL guy, which he very clearly does. I don't think he's going to want to be a practice squad guy just for really nothing, really. He gets paid more money in the UFL, and he gets more opportunities to show off how good he is. So he is the first player cut. I think we're going to go into the season with 2 quarterbacks, period. So I think Logan Woodside is going to get cut, but then he's going to get signed to the practice squad. So Logan Woodside will be back. He'll just get signed to the practice squad, which means that we'll go into the season with 2 quarterbacks, which will be Jake Browning and Joe Burrow. Running back wise, I think this is your 3 running backs. I know Elijah Collins has made a case for himself last, game that he looks pretty solid, but I think we're not using Noah Kane. We're not going to use Elijah Collins. I think both those guys will be cut in the end here, and we'll go into the season with 3 running backs right here. Wide receivers, I think it's pretty clear. We're going to probably put, again, keep in mind, some of these guys will go in the practice squad. Cedric Jackson will be cut. We'll also cut Cole Burgess. We're also going to cut Hakeem Butler, and we're going to cut Kwame in the end here. My guess is we go into the season kind of like last season here, but now with Jermaine Burton and with obviously no Tyler Boyd. We go into the season with 6 different wide receivers. And yes, that is, by the way, what you see on the screen right here. This is the order of the receivers. Yoshi is the 3rd receiver on this depth chart. I know Trent Irwin, we love him, he's great. Yoshi has worked his way up, according to a lot of different sources, to be that 3rd guy. He is currently being utilized as the slot receiver, and he's doing really good at it. So he's very possibly could be the slot receiver in the end here. So now we're at 78 players, and that's just obviously the skill positions. We'll look at tight ends in a second, but let's look at offensive linemen. I think this is pretty clear. Jackson Carman, it's time for you to have your beautiful exit. Going down this list here, it's very possible, by the way, Jackson Carman comes back on the practice squad. I know you might say, whoa, Frank Pollock likes him. Frank Pollock very, very much likes Jackson Carman. So if Frank likes him, he's probably coming back. Jackson Kirkland, practice squad guy again. Nate Gilliam going to end up being a practice squad guy again. Teddy K obviously will make the roster. Trey Hill, I think, will make the roster. And here's the reason why. We'll probably utilize him because he can also play guard. He played guard last game, and he was actually pretty good. And I think that for extra offensive line depth, we'll probably keep Trey Hill. We're going to keep Matt Lee. I think he'll make the roster. I think Cody Ford's going to make the roster 100%. I think Eric Miller is going to not make the roster, but he'll probably be a press squad guy. So yeah, we keep in mind we need offensive line depth. Okay, like Trey Hill been here 2 years. He knows the offensive line. He knows how to zone run. We'll probably keep him. Matt Lee will keep. Cody Ford we're going to keep. Obviously, we're going to keep Amarius Mims. We're going to keep Trent Brown. I think Devin Cochran, he might potentially be kept. Especially because we don't have a backup left tackle at this moment in time to back up Orlando Brown if we cut Cochran. I think Cochran will be kept right now, especially with the injury to Amarius Mims. So, with depending on how Amarius Mims does go ahead and, show out here, he'll probably be on the roster right now. Cam Grandy will be cut from the roster. I think we will end up keeping more tight ends than really is needed, but I think we will end up keeping here 5 different tight ends. So Cam is kind of the odd man out here, so let's go ahead and get rid of him. That brings us down to 73 men on the roster, and that was... I only cut 13 players on offense. Let's see what defense is looking like. All right, so defensively, Sam Hubbard obviously will make the roster in the end. With the injuries, let me pull up something real fast because we have to keep enough defensive line depth, especially rotation players. You can't just not have defensive line depth. I think we're gonna end up getting rid of Justin. Yeah, we're gonna end up getting rid of him. Again, like I said, let's see how this works out. So, Andre Carter, I could see us keeping one of these guys, by the way, Justin or Andre, just as a rotation purposes, but we'll probably just bring him back on the practice squad, in all honesty. Sheldon Rankins makes the roster. Chris Jenkins makes the roster. Jay makes the roster. I think that Travis Bell and Dom... I'm gonna go with they're not gonna make the roster here. We're gonna cut them off, and keep in mind some players not so far really as much, but some players you might be like, oh no, I want that guy on the roster. It's only 53 players. It is what it is. At the end of the day, you can't really do much about that. Maxwell, I think we end up cutting him as well. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Carlos Davis, I think he makes the roster. There's a lot of talk and speculation about him making the roster. And I think as a rotational guy, as a depth piece, I think he makes the roster. Trey Hendrickson makes the roster, obviously. Joseph Asai. I think Cedric Johnson makes the roster. I think Joshua Pryor does not, but he is very possible a practice squad guy. But I think Cedric Johnson makes the roster here. Especially injuries to Cam Sample, you need that kind of rotation guy. Devin Harper, Aaron Casey. I think Aaron Casey does not make the roster in the end here. So I'm going to go ahead and do the cut right there. Devin Harper, yes. Actually, Devin Harper, I'm going to put you as put you here, buddy, as a practice squad guy. Logan Wilson, yes. Joe Batch, yes. My man, Moa, he's going to make the roster. Shaka Hayward, I'm sorry, buddy, but you are going to be that you're going to be that practice squad, beautiful practice squad guy. Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is kind of on that fritz, I feel like. I mean, obviously he's coming off injury, but he might be another guy that 7th round pick last year. We'll see if he is able to make the roster. He was hurt, and they do like him a lot, but I don't know 100%. If he will, but I say I'm going to have him on the 53-man roster personally. We're now down to 62 players, so we're really getting close to that number. I think Anthony makes the roster. I'm just trying to go down here to see who I can and cannot cut. Jalen Davis, I'm going to have him cut on the roster. Lance Robinson, I'm going to have him cut. Okay. I'm gonna have to. Oh, this is gonna get. This is now. See, now we're also. This is the problem with 53-man rosters is that you're now down to a point where you're like, we got to cut people, but how many more players? 59. We have 6 more players to cut. Oh lordy, we gotta have 60-man rosters. I feel like you got to make a decision on punter, but you can't because Brad Robbins is hurt. So You know what? I'm making it executive decision there. Brad Robbins cut. Ryan makes the roster. I feel like Brad Robbins is going to make the roster, but I'm going to go with that. Mike Dewell, I'll have him cut. There we go. That should take us down now to around 57 players. I have 4 more players I have to cut. Okay. I think Poison Ivy might end up being that guy. I hate to say it, but I mean, I don't know, because I think we do. Once he comes back healthy, we need that kind of rotation guy, especially at the cornerback position once he comes back healthy. Jay, we might. No, I don't want to cut offensive line depth. I really don't. I think offensive line depth really important here. Who else are we gonna cut? And this is what teams gotta deal with, man. They gotta deal with this while they're, like in the season. This is difficult. And not only that, they also gotta talk to the players and be like, hey, listen, we're cutting you. Like, we're getting rid of you. Eric All, Tanner Hudson. I think we keep all the tight ends. I really do. I don't think we can cut Devin Cochran. Can we need that backup left tackle position? Maybe. No. I mean, Cedric Johnson is really the odd man out, and I really want him to make the roster, but it's a 53-man roster thing, my guy. I hate that too, because I really want him to make the roster. Yeah. And again, like Carlos Davis, I think he makes the roster as rotation, but we have so many D tackles. He's the odd man out now. Now he's the odd man out. We got to go back and start cutting players we don't want to cut. 2 players left. I felt like I was solidly at 2 players left before. Oh, who else? Chris Jenkins. I don't want to cut Chris Jenkins. I mean, I'm sorry. My brain just completely backfired. We're not cutting Chris Jenkins. Obviously, he's a mutant. We love mutant. But no. I was looking at Jay, and then I said Chris Jenkins. My apologies. I was in my head. I'm like, okay, we can't cut Jay, and then my mouth just said we can't cut Chris. No, we're not cutting Chris Jenkins. Obviously. Poison Ivy, DJ Turner, Josh Newton. Man, and see, this is why keeping 2 punters. People are like, oh, we should keep both. I don't know if we can keep both. It's too much depth at keeping both. Trey Hill is difficult because we like to utilize Trey Hill as a backup guard, and I feel like I can't cut the offensive line depth. I can't. What's really messing me up is the tight ends. Having so many tight ends on the roster is difficult. I'm not cutting Moa. I refuse to. Anthony, man, I would love to see Anthony make the squad. Dude, I really don't know, guys. I really don't know who else to cut. There's 2 more players we gotta get rid of, and I don't know if 2 more players, is this even possible? I mean, because you have to have depth. I guess Jay. I hate cutting Jay. I think Jay is a really good rotational veteran. All right, we gotta cut 1 more player. We're not cutting Poison Ivy because we need that rotation at corner. We're already thin at corner based on this projection, and we're not cutting Tyson Anderson. It is a safety. The last player is a safety because we have 5 safeties. That's really what it comes down to. I'm not cutting offensive line. Okay, let's go position. I'm not cutting quarterbacks. Running backs, no. Wide receivers, no. I don't want to cut offensive line depth. I don't want to cut the tight ends. It's very possible Tanner McLaughlin doesn't make the roster for this reason, but I don't want to cut tight ends. I'm not cutting that. Not cutting that. It really comes down to the safeties, man. It really does. I can't say Anthony doesn't make the roster, man. I mean, it's possible Tyson Anderson doesn't make the roster, but even then, I mean, guy went through so much. And I know this is not, you can't make this personal, emotional. You can't make this, like, based on biasy. This is just what's best for the team. But it's just the stuff he overcame to get to the spot he is now back. Oh, man, that sucks. I know he would be a press squad guy, but all right. That's going to kill me, but I got to cut Tyson. And I hate it, too, because he's so good on special teams. He is such a special team gem. But it really comes down to, in all honesty, Anthony or Tyson Anderson. And I feel like Anthony has shown more this offseason so far than Tyson Anderson. I mean, Tyson Anderson obviously just came back from injury. Literally last week, he just came back. But, I mean, again, it's difficult because it's a 53-man roster, but you got to cut down to the 53-man roster. This is the most difficult video I've made in a bit, man. Woo! Like, I've made, like, long, time-consuming videos, but because I'm so emotionally attached, I feel like, to all these players. I'm so emotionally invested. That's like saying, like, oh, this guy makes it, this guy doesn't make it. Like, these analysts or websites that just boop out these 53-man roster predictions. Bro, you guys got no heart. You guys just sit there like, oh, yeah, 53-man roster, here you go. I'm sitting here like, bro, I don't know. This guy, maybe. But what if this guy did this? Oh, lordy, guys. Tell me down below your thoughts and opinions. Who they?